I'm aware that I'm representing South Africa and African Dota in general, but I'm also very, very aware that I'm the only black person in Dota, right? It's like just me. So initially when I started playing, I was playing for a couple of just like really bad teams. Because at the time I was just playing Dota just for hex and giggles, right? I played a lot of Dota 1, but I never actually played like in an esports environment. And then I remember I started getting into Dota 2 around the time of TI3. Watched that tournament, it was really fun to watch. It made me want to play more and more. And then I started playing more. I was like, well, I could see myself being in a team. So I joined a team back home in South Africa. We weren't very good, unfortunately, as most South Africans aren't that good at Dota, sadly. But I still kept playing, still kept grinding, trying to get better. And there were some other teams that we were friends with. And what we would often do is that we'd spend time watching replays together. Because that team was way better than us, but we had some really good players on our team that they were like, we could probably all learn together. And then as we'd be talking about what's happening with the game, they just liked how I talked about it. And then one day they were like, dude, why don't you just come cast one of our games? Went, cast the game. It was, very low level Dota. I was super terrible. I was awful back then. My God, I'm really glad there's no footage of the old broadcast out there. But they seemed to like it. Other people in the community were like, okay, we could see you doing this more. And just slowly but surely, I found myself being like, oh, hey, I'd be up one night. You see some people on your friends list that are about to enter a lobby, are about to go practice, or about to play an official. You're like, oh, would you mind if I cast? And they would just be like, sure, hop on in. And then slowly but surely, people just kept saying hop on in and kept saying hop on in. And now we're here. In South Africa, there's a lot of infrastructure challenges, just generally speaking. Having reliable power, having reliable internet. Internet's pretty good now though. Just finding the time, because it's a big sacrifice, Dota. The amount of time you have to spend to really get good at Dota, whether it be as a player or as a talent, does require you to give up quite a few other things. So you have to take the big gamble, not spending as much time at school, not finishing a degree, not working as much, and choosing Dota instead. Honestly, there have been several times throughout the years where I've come close to quitting Dota. Specifically Dota, like other esports, I'm like, I could still do this as a hobby. I'm still fine there. But specifically Dota, it did feel like it was an all or nothing affair at points. And for the longest time, I was getting nothing out of Dota. Like, it was just pure passion. Just I happened to really love this game that kept me going within it. I'm glad I did now to get through the other side, but it was a very difficult journey. And honestly, had this last maybe a year or so not gone the way it did, probably wouldn't have stayed in Dota, because things were getting like really rough in my personal life and I needed reliable and sustainable income. And at the time, Dota wasn't providing it. Thankfully it is now, I'm glad, but it was not easy to get to this point. There's people who like just kept me going, and not just in terms of like support mentally and emotionally, right? But some of my friends have paid my rent, bought me groceries, driven me around to places. Hey, you can sleep here if you don't have any electricity, so you can cast some games. Hey, yo, your PC right now is broken, something's going on, don't worry, you can borrow some gear from me. The microphone that I used from about like 2 years ago was crowdfunded by one of my friends as well within the scene. So there's people like Scant, there's people like St. D, like real ride or dies back home. People like K Chikte, without them, guaranteed, could physically not be here. The South African Dota scene had like a bubble at some point where it looked like things were going to get bigger, and I think collectively we all screwed it up in South Africa. We didn't necessarily treat it as seriously as it could have been. But after that happened, right now, I'm aware that I'm representing South Africa and African Dota in general, but I'm also very, very aware that I'm the only black person in Dota, right? It's like just me. And I became more aware of this when we're in Lima. I'm in Lima, obviously that was my first big event, my first major. I'm around people who have been to countless majors, right? So there's signing sessions, people are running up and down, trying to catch people, oh, please sign this, please sign this, please sign this. And then there's a conversation I won't forget. This guy comes to me and wants me to sign something. I'm like, all right, cool, man. And then he gives me this lighter, right? I'm like, okay, thanks, I guess. But then what he says to me afterwards, legitimately, I won't forget. He says, seeing you reminds me that Dota can be for people that look like me too, right? And Dota isn't just for tall European guys. Dota isn't just for people coming out of the Middle East. Dota isn't just for the Chinese scene. Dota isn't just for folk who've already been highly represented at the highest echelons of Dota, even if there's no one else, there's at least you, right? That lets me know that there's a piece of this thing that belongs to me as well. And that I'll never forget. And it changed my perspective a little bit, because I also understood that I'm not just representing Africa in Dota. It's like, if I go, right, what are the odds that there's not another black guy right on our corner? So until that next person comes in, I have to be around, I have to do as well as humanly possible to make sure that the next person has an easier road than I did, and the next person after them will have an easier road than they did, and then et al. I wouldn't even think of it as a burden, but it's like, this is how I can pay back the luck and the opportunity and the genuine privilege I get to be doing this as a living. I hope somebody else down the stretch gets to experience the same joy I found in this. And if I have to be the first one, so be it. I'll tank the L's on their behalf.